Pretty much every video on my channel so far has been about Warcraft, and for a good reason. Warcraft has been the setting that was always one of the closest ones for me. There isn't a single other setting that I spend nearly as much time in, playing either video games or TTRPGs in, or attempting to play RPGs inside World of Warcraft, as strange as role-playing an actual WoW can be. There are, however, a few settings that are perhaps close. Settings I care about almost as much, and one of those is Elder Scrolls. And if you went to look at my channel, you would have noticed I tried making Elder Scrolls videos before. Please don't watch them, it's terrible. So you should know, I do care about the setting, and I've been endlessly dismayed by the last mainline game being over 10 years ago, and it being Skyrim. I mean, Skyrim does many things objectively well, but it lost a lot of that RPG depth that I liked about the earlier games. And hey, now that we got that Oblivion Remastered, I can jump on the bandwagon a little and talk about some of my favorite RPGs ever. I'm not entirely jumping on a bandwagon, honestly speaking. I wanted to do a video about the Elder Scrolls and its recent problems since very early on. Now I just have a good excuse for it. If you've watched me for the past couple of months, you would know by now that I am an avid RPG player. TTRPGs, video game single-player RPGs, sometimes MMOs if I have to, because my favorite franchises got stuck in the bloody format. And Skyrim, while undeniably a very well-crafted game in its own right, isn't really an RPG. What is left of an RPG in Skyrim, really? You have health, magicka and fatigue, and you have skills you can level up by doing, and that's really it. Unless I'm forgetting something, but it really is much more of an action game with some small RPG elements to it. Each succeeding game was more simplified or dumbed down, to put it unkindly, and it really reached a critical mass with Skyrim, where there's hardly anything of an RPG left in it. I was worried what Test 6 would look like. Now the trailer for Test 6 is older than Oblivion was when Skyrim released, so that's not happening anytime soon. But once again, we got the Oblivion Remastered now, so people can see again, in better graphics, what a more RPG-accurate Elder Scrolls game was like. And to me, at least, mechanics-wise, Oblivion had just the perfect amount of complexity for an RPG. Morrowind wasn't that different from it, but it starts to get really dated now. I get through the graphics because they've been around the scene for a while, but the journal is frankly atrocious, and I can't find it in Morrowind. Oblivion gets us some modern mechanics, quest markers and fast travel, without removing so much of RPG from the game. Hence it was, gameplay-wise, my favorite. Morrowind is still my lore favorite because it just gets so crazy, but that's an entirely different topic. But this series, and most of my channel, is all about how I fixed insert game name for a TTRPG. And you might notice in this title that I didn't fix Elder Scrolls for an RPG. The main reason being, I'm already running one RPG system, and though I tried running two once, it didn't really work out. So when my game went to Tamriel, I made the decision to not create a whole separate system for it. We're still using the same system originally created for Warcraft, with some new adjustments and additions to adapt stuff. Hence, I didn't fix the Elder Scrolls for a TTRPG. But I could, and here is what you could change or leave unchanged for an Elder Scrolls TTRPG. Funny anecdote here. When I was researching potential test RPGs years ago, I went to look in a couple of places. I went to the USP, Discord server, unofficial Elder Scrolls pages, the Elder Scrolls Wiki, Discord server, and said something like, I'm surprised no one really made an Elder Scrolls RPG that isn't reskin D&D, because the system as it stands in the games would translate very well. And someone, very helpfully, pointed out that it's a CRPG. A computer RPG. You can play it on a computer with graphics. Why do you want to play pretend, dumbass? That's the kind of energy I got from it. I'll never forget that response. It's just a funny aside. Here are the basics of the system as presented in Morrowind and Oblivion. You pick yourself a class, but it's not a class-based system. The class is basically just a name slapped on a packet of major or minor skills, including the ability to just make your own class. You level the skills by using them, like leveling Blade by hitting people with blades, or leveling Destruction by burning people. Leveling those skills eventually makes you gain a character level, and gaining a character level lets you improve your attributes, which are more classic attributes like strength, intelligence, willpower, but also personality and the luck. The minor skills contribute less to the leveling, and the skills you didn't pick, while you can still level them, do not contribute to the character level. And all of that makes perfect sense for a TTRPG. This is the other reason why I didn't fix Elder Scrolls for a TTRPG, because it needs very little fixing to fit, before Skyrim at least. With some numerical adjustments to make it flow a little better, you can just transplant those systems directly into a TTRPG and it would be fine. And to the best of my knowledge, no one has done it yet? At least they didn't publish anything. I mean, why haven't they? People have shoved the Elder Scrolls and Mass Effect into D&D, vastly different systems, and no one tried to do the little work needed to make a TTRPG that feels like an Elder Scrolls game. Is this what I should be doing with my life? Like, instead of making videos that 1,000 people watch at best, make a TTRPG book about Elder Scrolls that Microsoft would instantly crack down on if I earned anything from it, so never mind. Of course, that system comes with its own set of problems. The most infamous one is probably the Oblivion leveling problem. Now, I haven't played the remaster, no money to spare, so I don't know if it's still the case, but it's probably the same, but I can't be sure. But in the original Oblivion at least, there was a slight problem. If you play the game more naturally, and set your major or minor skills to things you actually want to level, you will probably include things like alchemy and athletics and speechcraft. So when you level up, you will have, at least partially, leveled those skills and got the attributes that govern them. What follows is you will have leveled blade or armor less. Now, the enemies you fight in the game, they don't level alchemy and speechcraft, because they don't need it. The enemies will have leveled blade, and blunt, and heavy armor, and destruction, and they will destroy you, because they will be the equivalent of level 30 in those, and you will be a level 30 potion merchant. And in the end, killing enemies is the core of the game. As much as I enjoy crafting or playing this stupid social minigame in Oblivion. Now, what players have done with it is they advised putting the opposite of what you want in your class, so that you will have master levels of skill in blade and armor, but you're still level 1. So your enemies are level 1, so they are crap at it. And to me, that feels like cheating, and it's definitely not a natural, intuitive way to play the game. Now, it's not like you can do much else as a player, but if you're designing the game or a TTRPG based on it, there's better ways to solve it. What I would have done is to give the enemies some of the same empty skills. Let the liches or goblins or Dremora have skill in speechcraft or security. Obviously it's going to be useless to them, but the typical player will also have some of those useless skills. And sure, you can game the system and you'd have players who do the opposite, and now they have all the combat skills and the enemies suck. But guess what? You always have players who game the system and trivialize it. If they find it fun, let them have it. And let the average player not feel overwhelmed by a broken leveling system. Or maybe let the enemies have those crazy skills when you run a higher difficulty. Basically anything you do as a designer is better. I wouldn't need to fix a lot of the gameplay for a TTRPG, but there is of course the question of the lore. And again, I didn't have to fix a lot there. There are a few big retcons in the lore that not many people today are aware of, because they're so old. Not the people. The retcons have happened so long ago that people don't realize they're retcons. Probably the biggest one was the climate of Cyrodiil. Before Oblivion came, the Imperial Province was set to be a tropical jungle. And if you look at the other climates nearby, it makes sense. The people there were based on the Romans. And to paraphrase Michael Kirkbride, the guru of Elder Scrolls lore, Todd watched Fellowship of the Ring, and mistakes were made. Cyrodiil got very whitewashed, in the sense that it became much more generic, a standard medieval fantasy that has only the barest hints of the original Roman influence. And while I love Oblivion, this is probably its biggest problem, lore-wise. Yes, they later explained it and said that Tiber Septim, upon his ascension to divine, remade the history of Cyrodiil so it always was a jungle. However, it lies in the same realm as Deathwing raising the mountains, a post hoc rationalization for a real-world-driven reason. So instead, in my game, that never happened, and Cyrodiil is, and always has been, a jungle, and people there don't live in medieval castles. The other major thing I had to adjust for my game also had to deal with the differences between a video game and a TTRPG. In a video game, you will frequently be given either a single way to progress, screw you Delphine, or just a small set of choices. In a normal game, one of those choices will be canonized. But not in an Elder Scrolls game. Here, all the choices are canonized, because of the thing they call the Dragon Breaks. When such monumental choices in history are involved, especially when the Numidium or the heart of Lorkhan are anywhere nearby, time, represented by Akatosh, the dragon god of time, splinters, and somehow, against all reason, every single choice happens at once. And I love the idea. It's completely crazy and makes every choice made by the player relevant. But here's the thing with TTRPGs. You don't have just a small set of choices. Everything you do is a choice. You have a whole order of magnitude more freedom than even the open world of Skyrim. You can do pretty much anything you want. So I also made it a part of the story. Something that also modern Bethesda refused to do with Skyrim. I heard like they wanted to say that Skyrim definitely wasn't a Dragon Break. So will they canonize in Test 6? Will they canonize one of the choices? Will they just not mention it at all? I don't know. None of the choices are good. Anyway, back to the topic. I also made it a part of the story. In our story, the supposed Nerevarine zero-summed himself, blinking out of existence because of realizing he's a fictional character. And our characters had to fill in, had to partially fill some of the things he was supposed to do and go defeat Dagoth-Ur before the whole timeline unravels completely. However, because we're no longer in a video game with constrained goals and objectives, it had greater implications. The nature of time itself changed. Mnemo Lee, the blue star of untime, the harbinger of dragon breaks and the spirit of chaos and change, descended from the sky, because stars are people/gods in Elder Scrolls, and threatened to completely unravel the time flow. However, a group of characters found her and convinced her to weave herself into the material of the world, like the Etadar of old did, and to become one of the Earthbones. Thus, untime got woven into the nature of the universe. From now on, every choice you make splits the timeline and creates a myriad of possible alternate timelines, all existing at the same time. The dragon will never break again, because the dragon learned how to bend. There is so much more to talk about in the Elder Scrolls lore, and I'd love to keep digging into it, but besides adding more stuff in the places we haven't really seen in the games, like Akavir or Piantonea, or adapting other fanworks from places like Inislea, I didn't really change a lot there, so all the video would be just me saying how great some things are. There's nothing wrong with that, but I like to do something creative with everything I do. When I'm complaining, I like to do something creative with what I'm complaining about and change it, tweak it for the better so it fits what I want more. When something is good, I would also like what do I do creative with? Like, okay, I like what they did with Valenwood and ESO. So, okay, I like it. There's nothing more to talk about. You know what I mean? So I'm just going to leave it here. Do you want to hear more about Elder Scrolls anyway? What specifically would you like to hear about? Any other franchises you think really need to be fixed for a TTRPG? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and do all the YouTube things, and if you want to support the channel, I don't have a Patreon, but I have a Ko-fi page linked in the description below. For now, this will be all, and I hope to see you next time in my other Random Ideas video.